and welcome to Fiction Fans, a podcast where we read books and other words too. I'm Lily.
And I'm Sarah, and I am so pleased that we are joined by K.R.R. Lockhaven, friend of the show and author of The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex. Welcome.
Hello.
It's so great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's so nice to meet you too. We've been reading your work since, oh gosh, you were one of our very early episodes.
I think episode 3.
So
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like we're best friends and now we can actually talk and it's great. Well, Kyle, as you know, we do tend to start the show with our 3 questions.
Right.
And so let's begin with what's something great that happened for you this week?
Well, I just got done doing a Camp Eyabsut, which is a camp for kids that are burn survivors, and it lasts a week, and I go up there every year, and it was just a great week this week. I couldn't ask for it to go any better.
That's incredible. So you do this every year?
Yeah, just 1 week a year.
That's very cool. Is it like summer camp where there's, craft tables and all that stuff?
Exactly.
Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made a Zoth-Avarex at Arts and Crafts one day.
Yes. Really?
I think I saw that picture on Twitter.
Yeah.
I missed it. Okay, I'll have to find it after the show.
Yeah.
It's worth finding. It was very cute.
That's so cool.
Kind of looks like a hillbilly, but it's not bad.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Sarah, how about you? What's something great that happened this week?
I noticed that my mango tree has little baby mangoes on it, which is really exciting. I'm not sure how well the tree will fare in the Bay Area, or if the mangoes will actually ripen, mature fully. But it's just really cool to see little baby mangoes on there.
Yeah.
Having fruit start is always really exciting.
I love it.
We're practically throwing a party every time we get a strawberry still. We're getting one every 3 weeks or something. It's the most celebrated strawberry plant in North America.
It's worth celebrating.
For sure.
My good thing, however, is that I made phenomenal coleslaw yesterday. And I know, Sarah, you're not a big coleslaw person, so that's fine.
I'm not a big coleslaw person, but I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
It was great. I'm going to eat it for days. But today, I am not eating coleslaw, although that would be a wild podcast if we were just eating food the whole time. That would be horrible for everyone.
I don't think anyone would want to listen to that.
No.
It would be unpleasant listening.
But we do drink while we podcast, and I'm drinking an excellent rum punch that I made. There's little frozen fruit in it and some Kraken spiced rum, and it's very good, and I will be enjoying this immensely for the next hour or two while we record. How about you guys? What are we drinking tonight?
I am also doing a spiced rum, but mine's Captain Morgan, just a Captain and Coke. Sounded good.
Oh, I love rum and Coke.
Yeah.
I just have problems with caffeine this late at night. That's a recipe for disaster.
Right. Probably not a great idea, but went with it.
It'll make a fun podcast, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I was going to make hot chocolate and whiskey because it's very gray out and perfect for hot chocolate, but that was a lot of effort, so I'm just drinking whiskey.
Nice.
My girl, yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of whiskey, though?
It is an Aberfeldy 12-year-old. It's nice. I wouldn't say it's my favorite distillery ever, but it's a pleasant dram.
Those are words. I don't know what I expected. I don't know anything about whiskey.
You asked.
I know.
This is your fault.
Maybe someone listening knows, and that meant something to them.
We have some whiskey drinkers as listeners.
Well, that was for you.
Shout out to Crystal.
Yeah.
Right. I wish I was more of one. I'm trying to get into it.
I'm pretty good with bourbon, but Sarah does not drink bourbon, so I'm just always lost.
Bourbon is too sweet for me. I've given it a shot, but it's just not for me.
I'm definitely the sweet tooth on the show.
Kyle, if you ever want whiskey recommendations, I would be happy to give them to you.
Okay. Perfect.
Well, other than what we will be discussing tonight, read any good books lately? Sarah, I'll call on you so it's not chaos.
I've actually just been doing podcast reading because we are recording very close to our next regularly scheduled recording, and I am a master of procrastination. So I still have reading for that episode to do.
Hey, me too. High five.
It's almost like we're related.
Kyle, have you had any time to do reading in between influencing the lives of youths?
Yes, I have been reading Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell.
Oh, that's a good book.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I am really enjoying it. It's great.
Do you plan to watch the TV show afterwards?
Absolutely, yeah. Got to try to find out where I can do that.
Yeah, I don't know where it's available anymore. I never finished watching the show.
Oh, okay.
I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the book, but I'm not much of a TV watcher, so I just kind of dropped off.
Oh, okay.
But I remember it being good, for what that's worth.
All right. I'm definitely going to try to find it.
Well, if we knew, we would help you. There should be some universal search bar for tell me where this show is. I probably subscribe to it.
Oh, but
I feel like that's Google, where can I watch the show?
Does that work? For me, it
sometimes.
only ever shows up with the paid options, and it never tells me like if it's on Netflix or something. I don't know. Maybe Google just picks on me. I've been reading a very cheesy romance novel, and I'm not going to say the name of it because I don't have nice stuff to say about it. But I'm reading the whole thing. It's my kind of cheese, but it's also not a good book. So,
I mean, it can be bad as long as you're still enjoying it.
Yeah, but I want to be honest about the kind of way I'm enjoying it, and I don't want to do that to this poor author. So, this book promised me a veterinarian on the run from the law. It's just family drama. That's not the same thing at all.
no.
So I'm a little disappointed in it, but that's okay. Anyway, what we're here to talk about today is The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex, and also, oh no, I'm going to get the name of the book wrong because I do not see it in the notes. Zoth-Avarex Escape Plan? That's not it.
Yeah, Zoth-Avarex's escape plan.
Yeah.
Zoth-Avarex's. I was chickening out of trying to of possessive Avarex.
Yeah.
Which, Kyle, you wrote, I want to say, well, I think The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex came out early this year. Is that correct?
Yeah, in April.
And so how long were you working on that?
Well, so I wrote a sequel to The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex, and I ended up not being really happy with it. But the ending was this choose your own adventure thing that I loved. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know, I just hit me one time that, well, maybe I could just tweak that and just put that out by itself.
They're both really fun books.
Yeah, I was say, we're glad you did, because
yes.
I had so much fun with the choose your own adventure. I will admit I cheated and just read all of it, but I did do some adventure choosing in the process. I did both.
Yeah, either way.
Before we get too deep into this conversation, you are publishing under K.R.R. Lockhaven, and we were wondering if you would share what your initials stand for.
Well, it's Kyle Robert Redundant. And really, that kind of came after I kind of had the idea to do K.R.R. as a, play on J.R.R., obviously, and George R.R. Martin. And when I was doing a little author blurb, I kind of thought, what's that second R stand for? Oh, redundant.
That's so good. I asked that question purely to hear you say that out loud. Thank you.
I mean, I love it. Like, one of the first things that I noticed when you sent us The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex was that little aspect of your biography. I was like, yes, this is my kind of person.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that worked out.
That's definitely the right vibe for these books. Like, silly, but also interacting with the genre, the larger genre in that way. It really fits so well. It's wonderful.
I'm glad to hear you say that.
So you self-published both of these books, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose to go the self-publishing route? What's it like self-publishing?
Yeah, so I guess the why of it is not really a choice. I kind of tried to query this around for quite a while and just didn't get any bites. And then as I started getting more and more on Twitter and kind of meeting other self-published authors, I began to think, well, that's a good path to go. And all kinds of great authors like Crystal you just mentioned, and just tons of them are doing the self-published route. And so kind of made me want to try it.
I've noticed that writer Twitter seems just so sweet overall. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think The corner that we're in, at least, is just wonderful. And there are some really talented authors on there. I mean, yourself included, but it's just like, man, my TBR.
Right, exactly.
I am going to take a second to say that the Crystal we're referring to is Crystal Matar, author of Legacy of the Brightwash.
Yes.
So we're not just dropping her first name like obnoxious cool people.
I should also point out that she will be coming on shortly to be discussing her book with us.
God, our guests are the coolest. How do we pull this off?
Our guests are the coolest.
Can't wait for that one.
It'll be good.
So we mentioned, well, you mentioned a little bit pulling off of the name J.R.R. and G.R.R. and all of the R.R.s.
Right.
But we could tell that there were some literary influences in the Zoth-Avarex biome. There was definitely Pratchett is a big one. But could you tell us about some of the other authors or works that influenced the writing of these two pieces?
Yeah, definitely Pratchett for sure. Besides that, Kurt Vonnegut has just been a real influence of mine. I know it's not exactly fantasy, but just his kind of dark humor really gets me.
Well, that's a debate you're opening up. I would argue he is fantasy.
Oh, right. And sci-fi, yeah.
We can fight about it later. It's okay.
Okay. And besides that, I mean, just there's so many authors, all the authors I've been reading since I was in middle school, fantasy books. But as far as the comedy goes, one of my biggest influences was like Monty Python.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of comedy. Like John Cleese has this quote where he says, "We used to think comedy was watching someone do something silly, but then we came to realize that comedy was watching someone watch someone do something silly." I really love that idea. And I kind of tie that in with my book because Harris, the main character, is kind of like the reader's avatar, and he's going into this crazy world where all this goofball shit's happening, and it's kind of fun to watch that from his perspective.
Mm-hmm. It definitely is.
Okay, I want to take a very brief second. So there is The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex, which follows Harris and his early days in his new job at the site, which is a sort of magical FBI, we're going to say. It's not perfectly accurate, but that'll get you into the conversation if you haven't read the book.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there is Zoth-Avarex, a dragon who they summon. We're not going to get too into it in this first conversation, but I think the fact that the sequel also features Zoth-Avarex implies that he makes it through the book, shall we say.
Yeah.
But just for context, for people listening, Zoth-Avarex is a dragon who has been summoned into the real world as we know it by this magical FBI organization.
Yeah.
I think that'll help so people can enjoy the conversation and then maybe get, a little drawn in. And maybe they can re-listen to the spoilers after they've read it.
Yeah.
And then they can go and listen to our original conversation on The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex way back in episode 3.
Oh, don't do that.
Great episode.
I don't think I had figured out how to edit yet. Oh, the reading material was A+. We should have saved it for when we knew what we were doing.
Oh, great.
But you're here now when we know what we're doing. Zoth-Avarex. Okay. I don't want to rehash too much of our early conversation, even though I just told everyone not to go listen to it. But I loved so much about this book. High level, loved that this was sort of first days on the job. I think a lot of fantasy novels get bogged down with the magical school garbage, and I've read it 100 times. I'm done. I don't need to read it again. Thank you. Thank you for not making me read it again.
You're welcome.
There's so much good material in those first day on the job jitters that you really dig into with Harris and talk about being in over your head at this location. Okay. I'm doing it. I'm talking about it when I said I wouldn't.
But the whole level of bureaucracy was just great too. There's so much there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is a kind of fun thing to dig into there.
So where did this come from? Where did the idea for The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex come from, if there's even such an answer.
Yeah, there kind of is. I work at a fire department at the Hanford nuclear site, which is over in Eastern Washington, and it's like this government facility that has bureaucracy issues, to say the least. And,
so you're very familiar with all these levels of nonsense, then.
Exactly. Yeah. For a long time, I wanted to satirize it, and trying to think of a way that I could approach that, and then I read Guards by Terry Pratchett, and it just kind of hit me. Hey, I could kind of tie this in, and this bureaucracy-laden site could try to conjure a dragon, and it kind of just fell into place.
It fits so well. I have zero experience with nuclear sites, but I think there's something so universal in the frustration of bureaucracy and paperwork that just hits so perfectly.
It's instantly recognizable.
Yeah.
You touched a little bit on this earlier, but you said that you had, this was the ending that you were envisioning for the sequel, but what made you decide that you wanted to do a choose your own adventure for the ending in the first place?
I guess the ending of The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex, possible spoiler alert, has a alternate ending. And so that was just so much fun to write, and I wanted to write multiple alternate endings. And the idea of a choose your own adventure, I thought, just kind of fit perfectly, because it's not taking itself too seriously and just kind of just fun. I could take it anywhere I wanted, go to any fictional realm. Just really fun to write.
It felt like such a natural continuation too, because we saw some of these really wonderful references in the first part, The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex. And then it sort of followed through with actually visiting these places in the Choose Your Own Adventure, that it just worked so perfectly together. I was surprised to hear that there was a different sequel planned, because how could there be a different sequel? This is the one, clearly.
I'm glad it worked out like that.
Do you think that you'll ever try to write another sequel to The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex?
Yeah, I have actually wrote a few. There's one that I have, there's a character, Eddie, in the original book, and I do this one where he has kind of a Freaky Friday body switch with Zoth-Avarex.
Oh my God.
I want to read that, please.
And then there's another one that has prophecies and time travel, and they're both fun, but they ended up being more novella size, and I wasn't completely happy with them. I haven't really been able to hit that note that I hit with the first book that I was happy with yet. But I did love this choose your own adventure idea, so I just kind of rolled with that for now.
And I love how it follows the villain of the first book, just taking that jump from, Harris and also the ensemble cast of The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex, which we also loved, which I'm not going to just repeat myself the whole time, I promise. But then we get the sequel, which is following Zoth-Avarex, who is the antagonist of the book. And what kind of gave you that idea of jumping to this other perspective?
Well, probably the feedback that I get. Pretty much everyone that gives me feedback says they really love that character, the dragon, and that he was their favorite. And just the fact that he's the most fun to write. Really.
He seems like a really fun character to write. I mean, if he's half as fun to write as he is to read about.
He definitely is.
So when are you going to write a zombie novel? When's the release date for that? You're going to write one for me, right?
I definitely need to. Like I said, I did have a zombie element in that sequel, but it just, I don't know, something about it. I didn't think it was quite publish worthy yet.
I'm okay to wait.
Keep working on it.
Okay, thank you. And for context, for theoretically people listening, one of my favorite aspects of The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex is Sarah, you're the one who actually phrased it so well. The believable ineffectiveness? That's not quite what you said.
I think I probably said incompetence.
There we go. And that's always where zombie stories fall flat to me. Characters do something really stupid just to move the story forward, and that's so frustrating. But Kyle, I think you would write such a good zombie story because your characters would do something wrong. That's fine. People do. And I would actually believe that they were a real people. I would believe that they were a real person making that mistake instead of just doing it for the sake of moving the story forward. And I'm going to keep bugging you about it for forever.
Everyone that you wrote in The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex was really believably over their head. And it was refreshing to see that instead of just I like a good fantasy story where the heroes are competent, but it's also nice to be able to relate to characters like you can relate to Harris and to Jake and the rest of the cast.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. It's very nice of you guys. And I swear I'll get to that zombie novel.
I'm waiting. That's all right. I can wait longer, but as long as you know. You have one whole audience here ready for it.
Perfect.
Well, you have two whole audiences.
It's true. That's true. For a concrete example, you know that scene in every horror movie, not every horror movie, where there's some lady running away from the monster and then she trips over nothing so that the monster can catch up to her?
Oh, yeah.
That's the kind of stuff I hate. If people trip when they're running, that's fine, but make it believable. Anyway.
Right.
You just have to show them tripping, but like beforehand.
Right.
It can't be this is the only instance of tripping that you see in the book or the movie.
Trip foreshadowing.
Yes. See, clearly a writer throwing around foreshadowing. To avoid spoilers for The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex and Zoth-Avarex's escape plan, skip to 3017.
So we can't help but notice that Harris, who, as you've said, is the main character, although really it's more like an ensemble cast, at least in my mind.
I insist it's an ensemble cast, but that might be because I love all the characters and want them all to be the main character.
Thank you.
They all get a lot of screen time.
Yes.
Which is lovely and well deserved.
Not just screen time, but also triumphs.
That too, yeah.
Okay.
But we're derailing the question, so
sorry.
So we can't help but notice that Harris is from Seattle, and Jake, who is one of the quote unquote ensemble cast, is a firefighter, and you yourself are from, if not Seattle, then Washington. And as you said, you're a firefighter. Like, so how much of yourself did you put into this book?
Quite a bit. Harris is, as far as personality goes, pretty close to me. So that's where I went with that. And then Jake is somebody I know that I work with, kind of just a big muscle guy, but prankster, fun-loving guy. And like a lot of the characters have a basis in the real world, people I have worked with.
Maybe that's why we loved them so much, because they really did feel so human while reading them. And that actually doesn't surprise me at all to know how rooted they are in people you know, just based on, I don't want to reduce it to well-rounded because they just had so much character. Saying a character has character is a stupid sentence, and I'm sorry.
They felt really grounded in reality.
There we go.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
So we're insisting, surprise, your first novel was an ensemble cast. I don't know if you knew this. It doesn't have a main character. I have declared it so.
I'll take it. Was
this always intended to be such a collaborative effort, or did the characters sort of grow as you were writing them and basing them off of, you know, people you've met?
Yeah, the latter for sure. I started out wanting to have Harris as the main guy, but the more I added in these characters, I just kind of, in all honesty, kind of loved them more and wanted them to get their time to shine. And so, yeah, it just kind of snowballed and became that ensemble cast.
It worked so well. The introduction of a character like Sylvia, who ends up being kidnapped by the dragon to be his princess, as he insists, was definitely something I, as a first-time reader who wasn't familiar with your writing yet, gave me pause, because that has such a danger of falling into the damsel in distress trope.
Right.
But as a character, Sylvia was so cool and just spoke up for herself and so wonderful in every way that, like, she absolutely stole the show. One of the reasons why I liked Zoth-Avarex's scenes was because of her there with him. And so it's funny to hear that people liked Zoth-Avarex better. Maybe I'm biased. That's a strong possibility.
Yeah, I guess that's just a generalization that more often than not people like the dragon the most, but I have heard people liked this character or that, and Sylvia has come up before. And Yeah, I was definitely thinking about that trope of the damsel in distress, and I really wanted to go against that.
And you
However, I
spun it
could.
so well. It was perfect because the setup was exactly how a reader would expect that to go. But then she ends up being so much more than that. And it was so satisfying to read.
That is good to hear.
One of the things that I really liked was the level of depth to the characters as we've talked about, but also just to like the setting. And I loved the concept of the site, and it felt like there was a lot there that maybe you knew, but you were holding back from the reader. So is there a lot that you know that we don't know?
Yeah, there is. Like I was saying,
A whole sequel.
I've written a couple different books, whether they're full books or novellas, and a lot of them deal with different departments at the site, and that's just real fun to explore. Just anything you could think of in the fantasy world, you can make a department of it and and have it be trapped behind bureaucracy, and it's just kind of fun.
I love it. I feel like there's so much room to play around there.
Definitely.
I won't say I can't wait because I'm happy to wait until you're happy with it, but I'm very excited to read some of these once you figure that out, because you're just dropping these teasers and just killing me. You're killing me.
I will try.
I really want that Freaky Friday
I
novel
know.
or novella.
You can't just throw Freaky Friday around and then expect us not to beg for it.
All right, I'll get back to that one.
It sounds like so much fun. I mean, I'm sure that whatever you end up deciding you want to write is going to be great, but I do like the concept of that one.
Okay, I'll have to go back and look at that again.
The problem is that we're going to get really opinionated, and you're going to have to deal with all of our. You can't judge all of our opinions equally valid. You feel free to throw some of them out. I promise half of them are garbage, except not the ones where we're praising you. Those are all valid.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes.
So you've mentioned the editing process for some of the unpublished sequels, but how different is the published version of The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex from the initial conception or even the first draft?
Well, originally, Zoth-Avarex was just like a straight up asshole, pretty much. He was kind of a caricature of like a narcissist jerk, and not as fun. But the more I wrote him, the more I ended up liking him in like a weird way. So I ended up making him a little bit less one-dimensional. He's still pretty horrible, but I think he's also a little bit likable too, hopefully.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, he's horrible in a way that works.
Okay, I have to ask. Why does everyone keep telling Harris to calm down? Was it like, it was very funny and I liked it, but I feel like I was missing something.
Yeah, I don't think you were missing anything. That was kind of personal, I guess. It was something that I was told a lot growing up, and I always felt like I was calm, and maybe I just wasn't projecting that, and people would tell me to calm down, and that would just make me more mad.
So it was exactly as frustrating as it was supposed to be. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
It felt like something out of The Matrix where, someone would walk out of the crowd and then turn to Neo and tell him something and then keep walking. Like, what? What just happened? What's going on?
Wish there would have been something more deep. But no, not really.
Well, you definitely imparted that feeling of frustration in the reader and bafflement and confusion. It worked.
Okay.
One of my, I don't want to say favorite, I mean, it was a favorite, but also it was just really, really freaky, is where you have this animated tomato sandwich, and the tomato sandwiches appear in both The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex and Zoth-Avarex's escape plan. Can you tell us, like, what, how, and why?
Sarah will not stop talking about these tomato sandwiches.
I won't.
Right. I remember when you first read it, you wrote me something that was like, there was a really disturbing part. And I just assumed you were talking about maybe the side quest thing where a guy's in a well shaft with a bunch of spiders.
No. That's past.
Spiders
that's
are cool.
Fine. Spiders and bones, like, they don't bother me. But the image of this animated tomato sandwich with a face that like tries to eat people. That's just horrifying.
Yeah, I was cracking up when I found out that was the most disturbing part to it. And it does have an origin story. My 8-year-old, we were playing 20 questions one day, and I got pretty close to the end of 20, and he was a talking sandwich. So it was a hard one to guess. And then when I started writing it, I couldn't help but to, for some reason, I thought of him as like Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah,
and so I kind of gave him a little bit of that. And I'm sorry and delighted that it disturbed you.
I mean, it was great. Like, I loved it, but also I was horrified.
It kind of sounds like the topic is that words are weird.
They are.
There's a reason why this is a segment in our podcast, because words, man, what the hell?
I find that I've become so much worse at spelling, like the older I get and the more time I spend just typing rather than handwriting things. And I rely on autocorrect to tell me when I'm wrong. And my spelling has definitely suffered.
Oh, absolutely. I'm right there with you.
I'm glad it's not just me.
No.
Are you guys familiar with the concept of semantic satiation?
No.
I bet you are, though. It's when you say a word or read a word too many times in a row, and then it doesn't feel like a word anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's a word for that, semantic satiation. And it's a weird trip to go down. If you're, listening to the same song over and over again, or, there are some books that don't have great word choices and they use the same ones, like some books I won't mention here. It just turns into some nonsense symbol, and it makes you realize all words are nonsense symbols. And then you have an existential breakdown, and then it's a Tuesday, and then, you have to keep going.
Yeah, you got your rum drink there.
Yeah. I feel like that was the original concept for words are weird, because they are, and I'm not wrong.
No, you're not.
Do we have any specific examples we want to use?
I mean, I'm sure that once we stop recording, I will think of specific examples, because that's how it always works. But I don't have anything just off the top of my head.
I don't either, sorry.
I had to Google it because I forgot the phrase semantic satiation. And now I'm looking at, in another window, a picture of some dude holding up a sign that says, flowers, flowers, flowers. And now flowers is not a real word, because flowers is just the word flowers printed over and over again. And I keep seeing the word flowers. And what even is a flower? Why are some flowers weeds and some flowers are good flowers? It's been ruined for me. Thanks, Google. Why was that your example? Flowers are good. Don't make me hate the word flowers.
Yeah, really.
I hope I imparted some of that pain onto you by saying flowers over and over again.
The more you say it, the more painful it becomes.
Yeah, what even is that? Flowers.
Flowers.
Why is it the same as the word flower? How does that make sense?
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Why are all words nonsense?
Words are weird.
Words are so weird.
So, Kyle, you dropped Zoth-Avarex's escape plan on us kind of without any fanfare, and it was such a fun surprise. Do you have any other tricks up your sleeve? Like, can we be expecting things to suddenly appear, or can you tell us anything about your current projects?
When's the zombie book coming out?
Yeah. Now that I'm hearing more about the zombie book and you guys like the Freaky Friday idea, I might have to drop a few surprises here before too long.
We would love that.
Right now, I am working on something kind of separate. It's like a trilogy, another fantasy trilogy that's in the Zoth-Avarex multiverse. It's kind of like if you took The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex and set it in a tropical, piratey fantasy world, and then kind of like cut out all the pop culture references and added in some heart and maybe more emotional arcs and some sea shanties.
Okay, but I want this.
Oh my God, everything needs more sea shanties. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Can you tell us if there are any overlapping characters between this and the two Zoth-Avarex books that we've already seen, or is it an entirely new cast?
Yeah, there is Zoth-Avarex. He appears in this one too. He is conjured to this other realm, and he's the only one.
I mean, if there's only one character, he's a great character to have show up. And the poor dragon, like, he must need a break by now. He's conjured all over the place.
Yeah, it gets tough for him. He starts to get a little bit of a conscience growing in this one, a little bit more so.
Ooh, I'm so excited to read about Zoth-Avarex with a conscience. I can't even imagine what that's like.
Yeah, and it should be good in that way because I'm having it edited by Sarah Chorn, and she is just fantastic with the emotional arcs and things like that. So I'm hoping
my God.
She does emotion so well.
Yeah,
my heart just stopped. Zoth-Avarex, edited by Sarah Chorn, is going to kill me. Oh no. Okay. I have to clear my calendar for a week to deal with that.
Do you have any idea when you might be releasing this, or is that still TBD?
It's TBD.
Give us some advance warning so we can make sure to clear some space in our calendar for it around the release date.
Oh, that would be great. I would appreciate that.
Well, speaking of your current projects, where are some places that our listeners can find you on the internet?
First, I wanted to see if I could sneak something in real quick here. You guys' podcast, Fiction Fans Podcast, is always going to have a really special place in my heart. You two are the first people in the literary world to give my book a chance, and I'll always be really thankful for that. It's been great listening to your show, too. I've been there from the start, and I really, truly look forward to every episode. You guys just are a joy to listen to.
You sweetheart, you're making me blush. I'm glad that we don't post this in video. That would be a sloppy mess now.
I'm like bright red.
Well, I just wanted to try to get that in there. I really appreciate you guys.
I think we also have to thank you because you were one of the very first people to reach out to us about like reviewing your book. And that was from a podcaster perspective, that was just such a thrill. So,
oh, nice.
The feeling goes both ways.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked out. So you can find me. I have a website, K.R.R. Lockhaven.com, and on Twitter, I'm at Kyles137.
And we'll link to both of those in the description, so no one listening has to remember those off the top of their head.
Pause to go type those in.
Yeah. I hope you had your paper and pen ready.
I'm going to be running a free promotion that coincides with this episode. So if I don't screw it up, Zoth-Avarex's escape plan should be free for the next 5 days after this episode comes out. And hopefully I can make it free, permanently free after that.
Oh, that's exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone listening, go get it right now.
It is so much fun. Like it's not very long, so you can read it pretty quickly, but it's just a really pleasant diversion. If
you're ever having a bad day and think you want a little bit of a distraction, pick up this book. It'll turn your day around, I promise you. It's so delightful. The only downside is that part of the proceeds of the book go to the firefighter fund, right? Or does it go to the camp? Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah, it goes to the Washington State Council of Firefighters Burn Foundation, and they sponsor that camp.
Well, everyone go pick up this book for free and then also donate to that foundation.
Yeah, there you go.
And can you tell us a little bit more about how people can get involved with the foundation or the burn camp if they're so inclined?
They can get involved by going to Eyabsut.org, and that's EYABSUT, or the Washington State Council of Firefighters.
Both a mouthful. We will link to both of those.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, very cool. Thank you so much for joining us. We kind of called dibs on your first interview, so thank you for honoring that.
Oh, of course.
It wasn't actually contractually binding, I promise.
No, I wouldn't do that for the world.
Yeah, thank you for putting up with that.
Love it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Fiction Fans.
Come disagree with us. We're on Twitter and Instagram at FictionFansPod. You can also email us at fictionfanspod@gmail.com.
If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and follow us wherever your podcasts live.
Thanks again for listening, and may your villains always be defeated. Bye.
Bye.